Hello and welcome back to another episode of Chasing Excellence, a show about chasing what truly matters. My name is Patrick Cummings. Thank you so much for joining me, for joining us this time around. Welcome back, or welcome if you are new. This time around, we're doing something that I particularly love doing, which is to revisit conversations that Ben and I have had somewhere in the past. This time around, we're going to the beginning of this year, beginning of 2024, specifically in January. We had an updated conversation about one of our frameworks, what we call the 5 Ps of decision making. At the end of the year, November into December, I spent a lot of time thinking about the next year. I'll use this as my excuse for planning and reviewing and thinking about what I want to do differently or what I want to do in the new year. And so I was thinking about this conversation. I was thinking about this framework, and I thought now would be a great time to bring it back up to the surface, either as a reminder or, of course, if you happen to be new, as the first time. What we are talking about in this episode, the 5 Ps, as I said, the 5 Ps framework for decision making, which are purpose, priorities, principles, perspective, and persevering. We talk about blending the rational 5P method with the intuitive gut response and emphasizing that both can work collaboratively. And then finally, we dive into each of the 5 Ps, why they're important, the order, and we advocate for daily actionable steps for maintaining overall alignment. So we're going to get into that in just a few minutes. A couple things before we do. One of the things I want to do, as I just mentioned, thinking about 2025, one of the things I want to do is really lean into what we're doing over at chasingexcellence.email. It's been a great year sort of starting things over there. I'm really excited about evolving that, making it better, making it more robust, and importantly, bringing more people into it. And one of the ways I want to start doing that is to use the chat feature. We use a platform called Substack. You can find it at substack.com. Easiest way to find us, the best way perhaps, download the Substack app, search for Chasing Excellence, give us a quick subscribe. That way you will get everything that we send out both in your email and in the app. And the reason I'm bringing that up is they have a chat feature. I've been playing with it. We've been playing with it a little bit. And recently I sent out a question and I just love the answer. So I wanted to use this as an excuse, one, to share this answer from RJ, and two, remind you all as we get into the new year, chasingexcellence.email. I want to really continue to have conversations over there, to hear from you, to go back and forth, to share ideas, because we are all in this chase together. And we love hearing from you. We love hearing how you are yourself chasing excellence. So here's my question, and this was a few weeks ago. I said, one of the topics we talked about in a recent episode was the impact of modern technology on our attention spans and focus. Talked about that in an episode called 10 Things Humans Aren't Built to Do, as well as an episode called Own Your Attention. So here's my question. How do you work to strike the balance between embracing technological advancements and maintaining our innate human abilities? Share your thoughts on adapting to these challenges while preserving our core strengths as human beings. And I just love this answer. It's from RJ. I come at this particular challenge with a simple question. Will this tech advancement detract from my health span? I keep asking the question until I have an answer. Until then, the thing is on a trial basis. I'm a software engineer actively programming for nearly 4 decades. No advancements have come anywhere close to the innate, beautiful complexity of real life, but with care, I've incorporated some. For example, I am the world's worst navigator. I'm right there with you. And I've incorporated navigation software to compensate. Sometimes I choose to let myself get lost because that's a part of life. But normally, I think this is a safe tech advancement for me. The big elephant, quote unquote, advancement is our digital feed. You guys have discussed very well the risks I think I see there, so I won't duplicate info here. But this one is simple for me. It detracts from my health span, so it's out. I made this choice 20 years ago, getting rid of my TV, and I continue to make the choice by extremely carefully curating what I consume. This is one of the few apps I allow on my phone. I assume he means the Substack app. No Instagram, no TikTok, no Facebook, nada. There's plenty of areas where we need to evaluate this choice. I'm particularly careful about the physical realm. My non-negotiables are hard exercise, good sleep, time outdoors, low stress. If tech promotes that, it's in. If not, it's out. I'll stop there. My daughter is texting me, and that's a priority. So I just love that answer. I think RJ is thinking about this exactly the right way. And I would encourage you to also, as we go into this new year, I'll say it one more time, a great time to think about what we want to do differently in 2025 than we did in 2024. Echoing RJ's comments a little bit, I highly recommend Cal Newport's book, Digital Minimalism. I think it's a fantastic primer on how do we begin to own our attention when it comes to the little computers in our pockets. So thank you, RJ. One more quick reminder, chasingexcellence.email, or just download the Substack app. Search for Chasing Excellence, subscribe to us there, and make sure you join us in the chat. Because as I said, I've got some fun things, hopefully some fun things. You guys will tell me if it's fun in the new year. So thank you, RJ. We're going to get into this conversation about the 5 Ps in 2 minutes. Let's say thanks to a few sponsors so that we can have the conversation uninterrupted. We're brought to you this time around by SciFox, the easiest and most affordable way to monitor your blood biomarkers from the comfort of your home. Visit scifox.com/excellence and get 20% off your at-home blood test kit. If you're passionate about optimizing your health, understanding your blood biomarkers is a game changer. Most tests are either too expensive or limited in scope, but SciFox offers a comprehensive solution that focuses on 17 essential biomarkers. Say goodbye to clinical visits and long waits. With just a few drops of blood, you can collect your sample at home and get a complete health overview. Their tests are exceptionally affordable, slashing the cost of traditional blood work by over 88%. Plus, you can track your health improvements regularly and stay on top of your personal goals. Combine your blood biometrics with data from your fitness tracker for actionable insights and recommendations. So whether you want to boost your energy, focus, or overall well-being, SciFox has you covered. Visit scifoxhealth.com/excellence today. Take advantage of that 20% discount. That's SIPHOX health.com/excellence. We're also brought to you by the Defender series of vehicles, a vehicle engineered for those who embrace the impossible. Design your Defender at LandRoverUSA.com. So much of what we want to do can seem impossible. What are your grand ambitions, your greatest goals? Are you there yet? Admittedly, me neither. Believe it or not, that's a good thing, though. The highest achievers among us are the people still striving, still reaching for something. They aren't satisfied to stay where they are. They want to keep climbing higher. And it's those people who approach the impossible and embrace it. There's a vehicle for people like that. It's called the Defender. With a legendary capability off-road and on, the Defender is an icon reimagined for a new generation of explorers. So explore your way with confidence, knowing it's engineered to meet challenges head-on. From the Defender 90 to the 130, there's a family of vehicles designed for adventure and exploration. Visit LandRoverUSA.com to learn more about the Defender. Design your Defender at LandRoverUSA.com. Okay, let's get into this conversation about the 5 Ps of decision-making. Enjoy. So we're going to talk about the 5 Ps of decision-making. We first had this conversation in November of 2019. And the 5 Ps are the framework we came up with. And here are the 5 Ps. There's purpose, priorities, principles, perspective, and perseverance. So I'm excited to kind of revisit this conversation with you. I want to start in a slightly different spot, though, because as I was thinking about this conversation, something that you've been talking about, I feel like more recently, is this idea of like trusting our gut and really like leaning into our gut, especially in places where like to-do list or a pro-cons list like isn't that helpful. Like we can do it, but it's just not particularly helpful. And so I wanted to contrast this 5 Ps of decision-making with the gut response because they work in tandem with each other kind of nicely. Because what we're not saying is like, always trust your gut and only your gut. Because we've got this framework called the 5 Ps of decision-making, which is very much not a gut. I mean, it is gut, of course, but it's a rationalization of how are we feeling? What are we aiming for? What are we trying to accomplish here? And so just to get into this conversation around the 5 Ps of decision-making, how do you think about the balance between the intelligent part of our brains, the planning side of our brains, the core, like the executive function, which the 5 Ps of decision-making live under, and the gut response and the gut decision-making?
They're 2 different tools for 2 different things. The 5 Ps of decision-making is there to help to direct your life so your actions line up with your visions and values. The average person makes 35,000 decisions a day. Every 2 seconds of our waking day, we're making a decision. That's exhausting. And if we are just leaving it up to the way we feel in that moment, we're probably going to have our actions not line up with our long-term vision and values. Okay, so I'm going to come back to that. Whereas the gut thing is there to help steer you when we're talking about the intangibles. When we're talking about, they can work in concert as well. Mm-hmm. But the idea is, should I leave my job? Like, yeah, your gut is there and you should listen to your gut as well. But your gut, I don't want to be just this kind of like leaf blowing in the wind in terms of like, and now I feel this way, and now I feel this way. This gives you an appropriate framework to make sure that the gut is actually lining up with some of the things that we are deciding ahead of time. And what I mean by that is it's really nice to lay out in peacetime what are the decisions you want to make in wartime. Because if it's just in wartime, we're going to get swayed by the urgency and the immediacy and the emotional reactions that come with a lot of decisions. So this framework is in place to help us. We have these two selves. We have a self one and a self two. Other people call it different things. You know, Freud called it the id, the ego, and the superego. He thought there was a third, but really simply, if we have this plan for our long-term self, which is, Patrick, this summer, what do you want your body to look like? And everyone's like, you know, this summer is the summer. I'm gonna look great this summer. And we have so much energy. It's cool. Like, okay, so to do that, you know, you have to exercise, you have to sleep, and you have to eat right. And then I go, okay, but Patrick, I have this piece of carrot cake, and I know you love carrot cake. You go, I know I said I want to look good in abs and a bathing suit, but carrot cake's amazing. I'm going to have, when it's in front of us, right in front of us, that's wartime, we might make the wrong decisions and go for the carrot cake. So this is a framework to make sure that our actions line up with our visions and values. That's what the 5 Ps are in place for. The gut is there probably, if you get through this thing, you still don't know what to do. You could sit there and kind of go, okay, like my gut says that this is the right thing. I think I should do this. But this is, both of these are not what most people do, which is, let's create the pros and cons list. Let's go talk to a mentor. Let's go do a survey. Let's go and research this. This is in opposition to those decision-making tools. What we're saying here is this is the introspective way to make decisions rather than the external way. You could use the 5 P framework or your gut. They're both tools to get it from an internal perspective.
Okay, so I listed out the 5 Ps here. I put them in a particular order, but I want to make sure we get the order right before we start kind of chipping away at each one of these. So again, purpose, priorities, principles, perspective, and perseverance. Is that the right order, or how would you begin to sort through each one of these in maybe an order of like, I don't know if I want to call it like importance first, but of like, here's where to start.
So this is where, you know, like most of our conversations, this has evolved. When we first laid this out, it wasn't even ordered at all. It was slices of a pie. And what we said was you needed all the slices of the pie in order to make the right decisions. I think this has since evolved. And I do think it is, while not necessarily hierarchical, it is sequential. And we're not going to be able to do the last ones meaningfully unless we do the first ones. And that order now, which might not be in line with what most people would kind of guess, is perspective, purpose, priorities, principles, and perseverance.
Okay. Perspective first then. Let's go.
Yes.
Yeah. Cause that's actually obviously, cause I didn't put it there. That's a surprise to me. So let's go with it. Let's start there. And why is that first, or why is that first in the sequence?
Yeah. So maybe this is also a little bit of an evolution in terms of what we originally meant by perspective. I think we used perspective last time more of a checks and balances.
Yeah.
Will you be happy with these decisions after you make them? You know, in hindsight, with enough perspective. This now is the first, this has become a lot more actionable than it has been theoretical. And the actionable is step 1 is to perform an exercise. And that is a exercise in perspective. And the exercise is the deathbed exercise, which we've talked about a fair amount on this show, which is when you are laying on your deathbed and you look back on your life, what are the things that you're going to be so proud of and glad that you did? What are the decisions that you made that you are ultimately so grateful for that that's the direction your life went in? Or, said another way, is what do you wish you had done? This is a big thing that if you study human behavior and psychology and the fulfillment frameworks, it's a really great question where they go around and they ask really successful people and people that struggle through life that are in their late 90s or centenarians, and they ask them, what are the things that you wish you had done, or people that are dying of cancer or other things that people are literally on their deathbed. They say, what do you think of your life? What are the things that were meaningful and that you think were, and what are the things that weren't meaningful? And this is the exercise. Other way to say it's people have, called it the eulogy exercise, where you write your own eulogy. And the idea is, let's take the greatest level of perspective that we possibly can, that we know of. Yes, there's more, which is like the God view. And if you were outside the universe, but we don't know that. The thing that we know is this lifetime. When this lifetime comes to an end, and we have all the possible perspective that we can possibly garner, what is the thing that, so the first one is, and that's why this is first, is the perspective is a perspective exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Can we go and do that thing and figure out what is this? And the next one I want to is, after you think about that, is like, the next thing is, what do I want out of my life? That's the question we should be asking, is with enough perspective, looking back, what is this life thing that I wanted to have happen here? Call it meaning of life. What do you believe the meaning of life is? Well, if you ask, a 3-year-old, they're going to say it's, candy and, Paw Patrol, it's
Yep.
like, which is like, that's why we want to go zoom out. It's not because it's not what is you think it is as a 22-year-old or a 42-year-old. It's what do you believe you will be saying when you're at the end? And that's really important. So what do you believe the purpose of life is?
Mm-hmm.
Big, high level question. What do we think that is? And then from there, once we identify your purpose, what do we think that we want to lean into? Then from there, we go to our priorities. What are the things that we feel like are important in order to build towards that life of value? Then from there, we build in some principles, the bright lines that steer us in the right direction. When we want to sway, when we want to go the other way, we have these principles, these guideposts to keep us, these guardrails to keep us on track. And then from there, we need the perseverance, because it's hard. Like living a life of ultimate meaning and purpose in line with your vision and values is challenging. It's way easier to get swayed by emotions, popular opinion, or something else than what's truly intrinsically important to you. So that's how these things line up now.
Love that. Okay. So great high level sense of it. I would love to dive in a little bit more into the actionable side of things in terms of how do you actually put this into practice? Not once, because I think once is easy. Like somebody can sit down and they can answer, they can do the deathbed exercise and they can come up with 2 or 3 things that like, this is my purpose and here are my priorities, here are my principles. And so obviously that's valuable. That needs to be there. But what I think when I think about myself and in these conversations that we've had, the hard part, and it's right there, it's the last one, is perseverance. That's ultimately the hard part, because life is messy and it gets hard and we forget. We don't review. We think about our priorities or our purpose once, and then maybe we think about it again the next year. And then maybe again, if somebody reminds us of it. So I guess my question, how do we start to turn this into something that we can action, not once, but every single day? Because ultimately, if we can't do it every single day, it's like getting to the gym doesn't matter if you get to the gym once a month. I mean, I guess it matters, but it's not going to get you where you want it to get you versus getting to the gym 5 to 6 times a week. And so how do we take the 5 P's of decision-making and look at it and act as though it is our training for the life we're trying to build? And embedded in that is, how do we make sure we do it, the prescription, every single day? Because that ultimately is where we fall apart. I don't think the original conception of it, it's Tuesday, I didn't sleep enough, the kid's crying, I just got an email that made me upset, and now what? I'm not thinking about the 5 P's of decision-making. I'm straight back to my lizard brain, and I'm just like reaction mode all day long. So how do we save ourselves from that in your mind?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the best way to do this is to I'll walk you through the process that I go through.
Cool.
So Deathbed exercise. When I do that, I think back and I think of what do I want? And what I want is a well-lived life full of purpose, passion, balance, and poise. There's a bunch more P's in there.
Yep.
I think I like P's. That's
You
weird.
do. You've evolved
Yeah.
to P's. It used to be L's. It used to be the 5 L's.
Well, that's it.
Moving
That
on to
fits in
Ps.
this. That fits here as well. Okay. But I believe that's my purpose. And
Mhm.
if I think about like, okay, but why is that well, it's because I think the purpose of life is to live your life, live it
Mhm.
to the fullest. How do I believe I can live my life to the fullest? Well, if I have my life full of purpose and passion and, balance, meaning I'm not over indexing towards anything, and poise, meaning I'm not getting rattled and distracted. I think that if I got to my deathbed and said my life was full of those things, I really do feel like confident with as much knowledge as I have right now that that's what I should be chasing. Okay. From there, where do we break that down? Well, I want a life of balance. So what is balance? Balance is without L's. So let's break this down. What do I think is important? I want balance across. For me, it's the 4 L's. It's live, love, lead, and learn. It took me a while to kind of navigate towards those things. It wasn't, just popped up, and I reshaped and kind of worked them. But to me, when I think about the things that really set me on fire, that if I was to look back and go, was the last 3-4 years meaningful to me? If I get distracted, why am I getting distracted? It's because they either have or they're missing those 4 components. So when we get towards that, live, love, lead, and learn, the other kind of framework in there is like, live is having experiences and health. Love is connecting with the people that are important to me. Lead is important to me. This is leading for me. This is like,
Yep.
like trying to impact other people is what I mean by lead. And I find it very fulfilling. And then the last one is learn. If I'm not learning, and I've had periods of time where I'm not, I feel stagnant. I want to grow. I want to evolve. I want to become a better version of myself. So from there, we create. So now we have our values. Those are my values: live, love, lead, and learn. Now that we have those things, what are some principles that we can put in place for each of those? Let's take the live one, health. Okay, so one of those things is go to the gym 5 or 6 days a week. Like that's one of those. Great. Okay, so now we have our bright line. Like, here is the thing. So as you said, you wake up Tuesday morning, you got a bunch of emails, kids crying, you don't want to go to the gym. You go, no, you decided a long time ago that this was a principle. This is who you are. You are the type of person. And if you want a fulfilled life full of joy, passion, balance, and poise, it matters that you go to the gym today. We're not getting swayed by the external environment. So we have a way to kind of keep us on those guardrails. We said go to the gym 5 or 6 days a week. Now, if it's something different for somebody else, completely agree with it. The best thing for me is when I'm at CrossFit New England 6 days a week. It changes me on a biological, social, emotional, every level. So then from there, we get to our last one, which is perseverance. As you said, some days it's hard. Like, that's the perseverance part. Some days it's hard and you have to lean on, you go back up the ladder. The other way to think of this is 10,000 foot view. Okay. With enough perspective, you're trying to, with a 10, zooming way out. What do you want your life to look like? Really high level. Passion, purpose, balance, and poise. Cool. Okay. From there, we zoom in a little bit from a 1,000 foot view. You're not in an airplane. You're not at the top of the mountain. You're now moving down closer from a 1,000 foot view, from maybe a really tall skyscraper. From there, we want to zoom in a little bit, and what's the things that are important to you? What are those? Well, to me, it's live, love, lead, and learn. Now we zoom in more, and now we're at the 100-foot level, so we can see things on the ground. Cool. What are the principles? Well, I'm going to go to the gym 5 or 6 days a week. Great. Now on the ground, doing the groundwork, persevere. Now actually do it. Take the steps. You're on the ground. Walk. do the thing. That's how we do this. Now, how do we do this? As you said, I might explore this once a year, and then I kind of lose sight in the email and the crying kid. The way for me, and I know this is different for everybody, and everyone has to figure out how to do this the right way, but something that I'm really excited and I've talked to you about is bringing this to life for everyone is this. I call it tracking. I track it. I think of my life the way I would a business. If you want your business to be successful, you need to start off with, what's the vision? What is this thing you want to create? What are your core values? What are your quarterly KPIs and objectives? And then are you doing that on a daily basis? And then you have to have accountability. You have to check in to make sure those things are happening. Without it, you're a leaf blowing in the wind. And the market forces, the competitive nature, customer satisfaction, or anything else is going to steer you in certain directions instead of this thing that you decided in peacetime of the way you were going to act in wartime, meaning crying kid and answering those angry emails. So the way that I actually do this is working back through it on a yearly basis and a quarterly basis. I review this whole thing and I go, does this still feel right? And it changes. Like every year or so, that the words change. The big thing kind of stays the same, but it's this life of fulfillment, living life to its fullest. And then from there, do these values still resonate? Is it still live, love, lead, learn? It's okay if they change. Completely, it's okay to change. If you have the same values, as I said before, at 55 as you did at 25, as you did at 5, we're probably not picking things up as they're being laid down in front of us.
Right.
So it's okay for what you feel is important in your life to change. That's okay. I like that. Iterate, build, measure, learn, and change. Iterate. Okay, from there, those might change every quarter or so. I'm not every day reanalyzing these things, but on a quarterly basis, certainly a yearly basis. And you've seen the way I do this. This is actually, I used to do it digitally. Now I do it analog in a notebook. And then from there, I go from those values. What are the 3 to 5 principles? So for love, I'm going to be home by 6 o'clock every night. I'm going to do a family dinner. I'm going to call mom and dad. I'm going to play with the littles. I'm going to connect with a friend or my brothers. There's my 5. Like, am I doing that now? We go to the bottom one. Am I doing that on a daily basis? I'm tracking it, holding myself accountable. And this is actually what's going to steer me in the direction to create alignment with my actions and my vision and values, instead of letting self one steer the ship, which is email crying kid, 7:30 in the morning. I'm not going to the gym today.
Yep.
No, that's the immediacy thing. We can't let, and I was on the carrot cake. Of course I'm going to take the carrot cake. No, you said ahead of time, you wanted this and you boiled it down from 10,000 foot down to that moment where you go, maybe it's for the live, some things are health. It's like your health could be no sugar, no sweets, no alcohol, eat vegetables at every meal, go to the gym, go for a walk, meditate, do yoga. What is the actionables? It's all malleable and you can change those every single week or month if you wanted to. But the power is the alignment. The power is the action. What we have laid out before for one of our other frameworks is awareness, intention, action. You need all 3 of those. The awareness at a really high level, deathbed, 10,000 foot view. What do I think a meaningful life looks like? Cool. From there, intention. What do I think I need to do? I need to go to the gym. I need to do yoga. I need to call my mom. I need to be home by 6 o'clock, family dinners. Cool. Did you do it? Perseverance is, did you do it when it's hard?
Last thing I want to talk to you about this. I would love to know from you what you think about the idea of kind of editing our lives in alignment with these kinds of things. And by that, I mean taking away the things that are getting in our way, things that we're doing because we thought like, oh, maybe I should take that job because it pays a little bit more and that. But ultimately, when we start doing these exercises, we're like, that is really misaligned with this purpose or the perspective that I'm coming away with this particular exercise. So just how do you think, or how have you experienced the editing process to make sure that we're getting rid of the things that aren't in alignment so that we have room for the things that are? Because ultimately we're all working with the same set of constraints here. We've got 24 hours. We've got we've got so much attention. We've got so much energy and effort that we can spend in building a life like this. So how do you navigate okay, we've done this exercise and shoot, I'm really good over here. I'm happy there, but man, over here, I'm a mess. How do you start to, again, I like the term editing, but maybe use another one if you've got it. How do you start to edit yourself, your life, so that you've at least got more room for the things that are aligned?
This practice is in place to help accomplish both going forward, but also where we are presently. What are the decisions we made in the past that are not congruent with what we are saying? If I want to really see someone's actual values, it's like, show me your calendar. Like, show me what you've been doing. Like, your actions are your values. So you say that family is your first priority. Well, let's dig into your daily calendar. You're out to the gym before work. You do the 5 a.m. class. From there, you go to work. You're at work at 7 o'clock and you stay at work until 7 p.m., commute the 45 minutes home. You're home at 7:45, miss dinner, quickly read a story to your kids and then kiss them goodnight. And then that's your 5 days a week. I don't care what you're doing on the weekends. If family is not your top priority. So what this allows you to do is exactly what you're saying, is not only forward, making sure that I'm going to line up my actions going forward, that they're in alignment with what's truly important to me, but retroactively, we can take a deep dive into what we are doing right now. And yes, it helps with the really small micro ones in terms of like, did I call my mom? Am I home at 6 o'clock? But recognize that those are the things that, like, if I don't have the time to call my mom, if I don't have the time to work out, if I don't have the time to do these things that I'm saying are, then also you got to go like, whoa, do I need like a wholesale shift in one of these categories? Because I'm saying that this is a balanced life. I'm saying that this is what it looks like, but I'm really over-indexed into this. I'm training for an Ironman and I'm spending 25 hours a week on the road and in the pool and on my bike. And I realize now, like, this is why maybe I don't have the time to dig into my career. This is the time I don't have the time to spend with my kids. This is the time I don't have to do this. And it could be any one of these things. I don't want to overlay the family thing, but maybe you're spending too much time with your family. You want to balance life and you're like, I just can't, I don't have time to start that blog. I don't have time to write that book. I don't have time to start that side hustle. When you realize, well, if you really want this balanced life, this is one of the ways to achieve that. And you start to realize, exactly to your point, where are you over-indexing? And again, the reason that this is a meaningful conversation for us is because we believe that balance is an integral part of a full life. That's at odds with what social media is going to tell you, which is go all in, do the moonshot, earn $100 million, win the championship, do this thing. Because the reason for that is, what we believe is, when you look back on your life, it's going to be more about the relationships and the fulfillment and the actual journey along the way than it is the accolades, awards, or anything else.
Thank you so very much for listening to the show this time around. Do make sure you are subscribed wherever you are listening to this or watching it so you do not miss another episode. New episodes come out on Tuesdays and on Fridays. And if you'd like even more, well, we've got it. ChasingExcellence.email. Head over there, subscribe to the newsletter. You'll get a bunch of cool stuff, especially new stuff coming in the new year if you are so inclined. You can also consider joining the Chase Club, which is our premium membership. You'll get ad-free episodes, book clubs. We are in the midst of another book club now, plus lots of other cool things. We thank you in advance. We thank you, as always, for listening to the show. We thank you for your ratings, for your reviews, for the kind words that you send us. Ben and I will be back soon for another episode of Chasing Excellence.